Donald Trump failed already in the election. Donald Trump failed in the midterms, right? His candidates failed dramatically. Because they hyper-focused on the issue of, like, Trump's election being false and fake.
Hurry begins our coverage with the very latest on these new charges, Sarah, out of seemingly nowhere. What do we know?
Yeah, John, I mean, I think obviously the biggest deal in this is Donald Trump is already facing several charges. Now he's facing several more. One of them is another willful retention of documents charge. It's related to that very sensitive Iran document that we've talked about before that he showed to people in a meeting. We'll talk more about that in a second. But the other ones are related to what prosecutors say is this alleged scheme to try to delete surveillance video. Those are altering, destroying, mutilating, or concealing an object, and corruptly altering, destroying, mutilating, or concealing a document, record, or other object. And as they lay it out in the indictment, essentially, there's this new aide that we're hearing of, Carlos de Oliveira, who is now a defendant in this case, who Trump appears to tap as part of this scheme to try to delete the surveillance video. It's after the government has been to Mar-a-Lago. They've subpoenaed him to return all documents of classification markings, and when they go to pick it up, they notice that there are these surveillance cameras outside of the storage room where these documents are being kept. They subpoena the Trump Organization for these surveillance videos. So after that subpoena, it's late June 2022, and De Oliveira,
he did everything right, and they indicted him again.
Is talking to another Trump employee about the surveillance footage. And according to the indictment, he asked this other Trump employee how many days this server retains the footage. The employee says it's 45 days. De Oliveira then goes to the Trump employee and says, you know, the boss wants the server deleted. And he asks, what are we going to do? So that's really the heart of the scheme to try to delete this surveillance footage that is new in this indictment. But let's go back to that additional willful retention of documents charge, because this is a document we've talked a lot about. Donald Trump talked about it in a meeting he had in July of 2021 at Bedminster with folks who are writing a book about Mark Meadows. Take a listen to how Donald Trump talked about that document at the time.
This was the Defense Department and him. Wow. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just
All right, we know
found-
this
isn't that
already.
Amazing. This
We know
totally
this
wins my
already.
Case, you know. Except it is like highly confidential.
And John, this is notable because since the first version of this indictment came out, since that tape came out, Trump has said he had no document. It was all bravado. The government making clear in this new indictment that was not the case.
All right, as we said, a big development amidst so many others. Sarah Murray, thank you for bringing us up to speed on this. I expect we'll be speaking to you again soon. Thank you. Rahel?
All right, John, let's go over now what we know about this new defendant. Right now, it's not a lot. Carlos de Oliveira, as we said, is his name, and he's the property manager at Mar-a-Lago. He was previously a valet there. We know that he's 56 years old, and he's now accused of helping move boxes of documents after the Justice Department first subpoenaed the former president. This happened in May of last year. De Oliveira spoke with the FBI earlier this year in January, and that's when investigators say he lied about helping or knowing about moving the boxes. Well, he has now been charged with conspiracy to obstruct justice, destroying or concealing a document, record, or other object, and making false statements. Now, we should say that CNN has reached out to his lawyer, John Irving. We have not heard back, but Irving is among the lawyers whose firm received nearly $200,000 in payments for legal services from Donald Trump's Save America PAC. De Oliveira is scheduled to be arraigned in federal court in Miami, and John, that is expected to happen.
Bro, they need so... What is happening? Half of the PAC money is going to Donald Trump's court cases, dude. They can't even run ads yet. It's like they keep burying my man with so much legal fucking paperwork that they can't even spend money on the shit that like helps you win elections. You know what I mean? Like develop ground game and all this other stuff.
Happen this Monday. So many more things to watch.
That's right. We'll be watching that. Okay, with us now, former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti and chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst John Miller. Renato, let me just start with you. What's different this morning than was yesterday? Yes, Donald Trump faces these additional charges, but what, if anything, about these charges makes his legal predicament different?
Well, one thing, John, is they now have found the document that was being referred to in that recording we just heard. I think that's important. Ultimately, that is some of the best evidence that Jack Smith has. It's evidence that makes it clear that Trump admits that the document wasn't declassified. We now know in the indictment that document was top secret. He's going to be able to show that document to the jury. I think that's important. And look, trying to delete and destroy surveillance footage, that is very explosive, and it's just going to be hard to explain away. All of the stuff about classified documents for a lot of people might be hard to get their heads around, but it's very hard for me to believe that jurors are going to not be able to understand that when you're deleting footage, when the FBI is investigating you, that means you've done something wrong.
And Renato, stand by for a moment. I want to bring in John Miller into this conversation. John, just the pure amount of investigation that went into this, thinking about potentially putting this in front of a jury when you have so much audio, photos, surveillance. I mean, in terms of the prosecutors being able to say, hey, don't even just listen to what we're telling you he did. We can actually show you can hear this for yourself. You can see this for yourself. I mean, talk about how powerful that is potentially for the prosecutors.
Well, the timeline that was just laid out on this broadcast really tells a story. But if you dig just one layer deeper, the original indictment's focus was, first, you have these documents, they shouldn't be there, they shouldn't be in your possession. The second piece is the obstruction, which is when we demanded these documents back, we see on videotape people move them around. So you're trying to hide them, and you lied to your lawyer about it, who made false representations to us because he believed it to be true. But this is a layer deeper, because when you bring a charge that says that multiple people conspired, allegedly on instructions from Donald Trump, to not just obstruct justice by moving the things around, but then try to find and delete the videos that showed them moving them around, you are in a new zone here, because you have an obstruction of justice being committed to conceal the original obstruction of justice charge.
Is it an obstruction on top of another obstruction?
It's an obstruction of an obstruction. And, that really kind of fills out in the superseding indictment the conspiracy where Donald Trump reached deliberately past his lawyers, who presumably would have said, you can't do this, and literally to the lowest levels of the organization, people who might be expendable, his valet, the head of maintenance, and said, take care of these things. There's a reason he bypassed all those attorneys.
Does it get to double secret probation? Obstruction of justice, I think, is a form of double secret probation. Renato, does that get to consciousness of guilt? Does it affect some of the other aspects of the case?
I think it does. I think, first of all, it's going to affect the evidence that can be introduced under the rules of evidence. A lot more statements, I think, are going to come in. But I think importantly, I think ultimately at the end of the day, John, that jurors, when they look at a case like this or any serious case, what they're really interested in is, was the defendant in on it? Was he doing something illegal, wrong? And for someone like Donald Trump, who was the president of the United States, he's going to be trying to argue that he thought what he was doing was fine and right all along. This is something that everybody knows is not okay. Everyone knows is illegal. And I think that's why it's a very powerful piece of evidence. I can see why prosecutors were willing to even risk delay in the case in order to add it.
Renato, let me ask, do you think that the special counsel's office likely knew that this was potentially coming a few weeks ago when they pushed for that December, which a lot of people said was a very ambitious start date? Do you think they had this in the back of their minds? And I wonder sort of how that plays in terms of the ultimate start date.
Great question. I actually think that this superseding indictment represents a tactical call by Jack Smith that he does not think that he's going to be able to speed this trial out, and get it done before the election. So he made a decision that he might as well have all of his bullets in his gun. In other words, this is not something you do if you're trying to get this done quickly before the election. I think he took his shot at that, and that did not work. Aileen Cannon said, no, we're going to do this in May. Realistically, I think any experienced criminal defense attorney knows not hard to push a May trial a few months or more. And so practically speaking, that was very remote possibility. And here he has an opportunity to get a potential flipper, if Oliveira feels, pressured on this, and of course, some very important additional evidence.
Now to Ed O'Keefe in Iowa, where the former president will be tonight. His legal troubles are becoming a big topic on the campaign trail. Ed, good morning. You spoke one-on-one about this with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
That's right, Nate. Good morning. The governor telling us he thinks the former president's legal issues are merely a distraction for voters. And amid signs of trouble for the DeSantis campaign, he insists they're now in good shape, with plans to continue meeting with people in early voting states.
I'm drinking hard Mountain Dew, yes. I don't know where we're going to go with... I don't know where this is gonna go. Like I genuinely don't know. Like I feel like I'm short circuiting a little bit. I'm sorry. But like, in many respects, I feel as though I feel like this is going to contribute to a depressed turnout overall. Ultimately, we're getting to a point where like it's just going to be like 30,000 people living exclusively in suburbs that are either A, allowed to vote, or B, interested in voting at all. Like, on the one hand, you got Donald Trump and all of his legal troubles. And it was like fun the first time, fun the second time, fun the third time. It's like it keeps piling on and on and on and on. And then the Republican Party has no way of dealing with it. They have absolutely zero ways of dealing with this issue. They are completely captive. And their alternative to Donald Trump is failing. Their alternative to Donald Trump is Ron DeSantis, who is a massive failure and on certain polls is like losing to some random fucking online Groyper guy candidate. And with Donald Trump failed already in the election. Donald Trump failed in the midterms, right? His candidates failed dramatically. Because they hyper-focused on the issue of like Trump's election being false and fake. Are they able to re-triangulate their messaging to something that appeals to a broad enough segment of the population beyond Trump's loyalists? Will it be enough for Trump's loyalists to go out and vote? Are they enthusiastic enough? Let's say they are. Are they enthusiastic enough, especially when on the other side of the equation, you have Joe Biden, who is not a very inspirational candidate at all, who had a lot of advantages like COVID lockdowns ending under his reign, but also a shit ton of economic stagnation and a tremendous amount of inflation as well, with no real fiscal policy to combat it. I just don't see the election turnout being like, I see the election turnout being like incredibly small in comparison to the last one. The eyes were on the prize last time around, and there was a lot of enthusiasm for getting Trump out of office, not necessarily for Joe Biden, but getting Trump out of office, right? Now that we've had 4 years of Brandon, and people have gone back to their lives, they don't care about politics. They don't want to care about politics at all. I don't know. I don't know how things will shake up. Or shake out, sorry. Meanwhile, in Brandon's America, inflation is at 3%. Second quarter GDP growth is 2.4%. Unemployment is 3.7%. Months of unemployment down 4%. New jobs, 13.2 million. New jobs 2019, 4.7 million. New manufacturing jobs, 800,000. Prime age in work, 25 to 54, is 83%. Inflation adjusted wages from 2020, plus 2.7%. It only matters the month before the election. Not necessarily the month before the election, but the election cycle will start mattering more. Ultimately, all of those numbers are completely irrelevant to how people feel. A lot of those numbers in general are irrelevant in the way that people experience the world around them, with the exception of, I guess, inflation, right? And even then, big ticket items are still tremendously expensive. Homelessness is still out of control. Like nothing has changed. Student loans were promised to be eviscerated, and that's in limbo. It's gone, as a matter of fact. It's just like, and on top of that, the guy leading the charge is old. If you think about like a single word to associate Biden with, a singular word to associate Biden with, no one is going to say any of those things. Abortion is the ace up the Dem sleeve. I know, it seems so gross to talk about it like this. Yeah, decrepit, old, sleepy. These are the things that people think about when they think about Biden. They think he's old. Good time for a third-party candidate? Yeah, good luck. And I don't even necessarily disagree with what you're saying. If I'm going to put my Democratic consultant hat on for a second, you know what I mean? Because we are ultimately talking about electoral politics, right? If I'm a liberal consultant, I'm trying to fucking push the abortion conversation over and over again, and I'm trying to show that I've done a lot to protect it, to protect the rights that people should have with respect to medical privacy, and allow people to go out and get health care, whether it be an abortion or whether it be any kind of gender affirming care. Instead of just telling Democrats to just kick back, and watch the world burn with the hopes that people will have enough cognizance to recognize that Republicans are doing all of this. Abortion, legalizing, decriminalizing weed, and student debt, higher education costs. The Dems have plenty of stuff to basically lock it in an election or two, but they don't have any urgency to actually get it done, so they're just going to milk it for as long as possible. Have you not seen the horror stories of transition children? How can you say that? They have no authority to forgive loans. It was a false lie to get votes. Mitch McConnell needs to go too. I love when like a Republican who thinks he's smarter than the average Republican comes into this chat and just starts spewing shit. Like, he's not as dumb as like, this one is not as dumb as like the average Republican who'd be like, I don't think you understand. Biden's a pedophile vampire and he needs his fresh baby adrenochrome pronto. They're gonna wheel out a clone to defend against democracy. Like, I love, instead of doing that, he's like, well, technically, they have no authority to forgive loans. It was a false lie to get votes. Yes, they do. They did. And they still do. You are so fucking dumb for claiming that they do not have the authority to forgive loans. Biden has forgiven certain loans, for example. Yes, the Secretary of Education can do that, okay? Biden can direct the Secretary of Education to do that. It's ridiculous. That's number one. Mitch McConnell needs to go too. Yeah, he's old. He sucks. He's awful. And then, have you not seen the horror stories of transition children? How can you say that? Is just your own news feed constantly pummeling insane amounts of anti-trans propaganda to you, okay? Don't hit me with a just curious after saying some psychotic right-wing unhinged bullshit, okay? Far more minors get surgery, like actual plastic surgery, corrective surgery, ultimately, on non-trans issues. The only reason why you care about the trans thing is because you've read articles on the same, like, 3 people that were forcibly or on their own detransitioned, okay? And the New York Times and every other fucking outlet is constantly talking about that on repeat as though this is the norm. And there's no children that have, like, quote unquote transitioned regardless. It's just like I'm trying to even understand your narrative here. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's office says he will remain the GOP leader throughout the end of the current Congress. Yeah, that's not surprising. My family friend's kid had genital surgery to correct the defect to make it look like other males, so make life easier for him. It was early 2000s. No one cared it was a trans issue. No one even cared about the trans issue until it was brought up to the public to be an issue for people to get mad at. All of this was carefully crafted by, like, Christian family lobbyist groups. They found a more successful strategy to latch onto. Anyway.
Former President Donald Trump's double-digit lead isn't stopping his 2 closest opponents.
I believe
his 2 closest opponents are just so far out. They're so far.
America can do for anyone what she's done for me.
We're not getting a mulligan on 2024.
Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott know Trump's legal woes hang over the race, but neither directly attacks him. What should Republican caucus goers here in Iowa, Republican primary voters across the country make of what's going on?
What we all should be very concerned about is the weaponization of the Department of Justice. We should be very careful on how we use immense power against political opponents.
At the end of the day, the election's got to be about the future.
Among Iowa Republicans, polls show DeSantis holding in second place, with Scott now in third. But DeSantis...
Damn, dude, by the way, this is an Iowa Republican poll, not even a national one. And even then, Big Homie is pumping numbers in Iowa. He's like literally kissing babies, kissing cows, whatever. 16%. Devastating.
But DeSantis had to trim back his campaign staff this week and is going for smaller or...
Yeah, he downsized his campaign by a third, which is massive. And also on top of that, like, if he wasn't propped up as the institutional, normal Republican candidate against Donald Trump, do you really think CBS Mornings would be covering it like this? It's crazy to me that they're not ripping his asshole into shreds by being like, remember the Nazis that DeSantis keeps hiring on accident that keep doing Nazi propaganda on his fucking campaign over and over again? Come on now.
Or direct outreach to caucus goers who demand direct FaceTime. It comes as he faces backlash for Florida's new Black History curriculum standards. The new guidelines say Florida middle schoolers should be taught about the harsh conditions enslaved people endured and about how slaves developed skills which,
Talk to me about Scott. Never heard of him. He's a virgin.
in some instances, could be applied for their personal benefit.
True.
For the first time, Scott, the only black Republican senator, weighed in.
What slavery was really about separating families,
We're now less
mutilating humans, and even raping their wives.
Ooh, Tim Scott came out and said, no, slavery is bad, actually. Hold up. What are Republicans saying about that? No silver lining. Tim Scott slams DeSantis over Florida Black History standards on slavery. Brett Stees, a Republican podcaster, Substacker, says, yeah, I get it. It's campaign season, whatever, but this is a lie. They all know it, and if you side with Kamala Harris, you're done. This sucks. Had such high hopes for Tim Scott in 2018, and it's gotten nothing but worse and worse. Just a shame. They're saying Tim Scott... Oh, Aya, what are you doing? Why are you right behind me? Oh my God. It's so funny. I go back a little bit and she goes, up! And she jumped up and immediately sat back down and got even closer. You're such a good baby. I'm giving her apology pets. Is she hiding under your chair? My dog does that. You have to be paranoid every time you scoot your chair. Yeah. First of all, who the fuck has high hopes for Tim Scott? Like, oh, dude, I love Tim Scott. Big fan. But also getting upset at like the only black Republican for saying like objectively correct things about the American history of slavery, even if he's using it as an opportunity to shit on Ron DeSantis, he's still right. But saying he's woke for saying that is so awesome.
It was just devastating. So I would hope that every person in our country...
That racist apparently who stopped when a black man said slavery is bad. Yeah, I love that. He's like, I had such high hopes for Tim Scott in 2018, and then he said slavery is just objectively bad. There were no silver linings to slavery. Fucked up, man. You really fucked up. To be fair, though, that is exactly what Tim Scott's role is. So, of course, the Republicans are going to be like, wait a minute, what the fuck? That's not what you're supposed to do. Because, like, if you've ever watched Tim Scott on any of the Republican National Conventions, in any of the CPAC situations, that's his role is to just sit there and be like, I'm a black man. I've seen real racism. And, you know, insert whoever the Republican person is that people are calling racist is not racist. That's what he says. That's what he says in pretty much every fucking speech. Every single time he is like prominent in the Republican sphere. So of course they're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Why is he not saying things that make me feel better about the racial subjugation of enslaved people? Why? I, as a white man, have expected this from him to be the black face of white supremacy, and now he's not delivering. It's really fucked up.
And certainly running for president would appreciate that.
Vice President Harris and Trump supporter Florida Republican Congressman Byron Donalds have also criticized the standards. In an interview with CBS News Thursday, DeSantis responded to the VP's criticisms.
We had really serious scholars.
Wait. Byron Donalds?
Have also criticized.
Byron Donalds is shitting on Ron? Oh, that's so awesome. I love this. I can't wait for Donald Trump to come out and be like, it's actually so fucked up that they said there's no he's going to come out and fucking just drive the knife directly into little Rhonda. Byron Donalds is a psychopath, okay? The only reason why he's saying this right now against little Rhonda is because he's a Trump guy. That's it. He's a Trump guy. He saw the tea leaves. He's a Trump guy, and he saw this is a good opening to shit on little Rhonda a little bit further. Hardline anti-slavery Trump arc. It's pretty funny, man. It's pretty good. If Donald Trump had come out and been like, slavery had some positives, which is something I absolutely can hear Donald Trump say, Byron Donalds would 1,000,000% be defending him. Okay? Like, absolutely. The attempt to feature the personal benefits of slavery is wrong and needs to be adjusted, he wrote in a tweet. Like, I don't think this is a person developing backbone, okay? I don't think, like, I know a lot of you will want to see this as an opportunity, like, oh, yeah, well, maybe it's because he's black and, like, he thinks it's, like, a bridge too far. Like, fuck no. No shot, okay? He's a green Florida Republican congressperson. 0% chance that he's saying that because he grew a backbone. He just saw how ill-received it was, even with Fox News coming out and trying to do coverage by, like, engaging with Kamala Harris's rhetoric on it and being like, Kamala Harris is stupid for saying that slavery has no positives. You just can't say that. It's like a thing that it's giving the game away, okay? It's like Republicans or conservatives that, you know, still understand the need to wear a robe when you're a part of the fucking Klan, okay? Like, you get it. It's like a racist person saying, well, I'm not racist, actually. How dare you say that? That's the most racist thing you could have ever told me. Even racist people don't want to be called or considered racist because everybody in America understands racism is wrong, even if they themselves are racist. Anyway, Byron Donald said in his tweet that the new African-American learning standards are generally robust and accurate. He added that highlighting the benefits of slavery wasn't the goal. Oh, by the way, Florida education isn't as bad as we thought it was. It's actually worse. I was lying. It's so much worse. Florida just approved PragerU Kids right-wing propaganda videos for use in public school classrooms. There's propaganda, celebrations of colonialism, and more. Here. Let me run through some of this. One video tells the viewer that embracing climate denialism is akin to participating in the Warsaw Uprising.
And grandfather Jakub are encouraging Anya by sharing their own stories of perseverance. Timon remembers having to meet people late at night in a freezing cellar to avoid the communist authorities. But that didn't stop him from sharing his ideas. Grandfather Jakub tells her about the Warsaw Uprising, when the city's Jews fought back against the Nazis. Jakub remembers helping smuggle food, blankets, and even ammunition to the Jewish resistance fighters through sewer tunnels. Through her family's stories, Anya is realizing that fighting oppression is risky.
Yeah, the real fight against oppression is literally fighting against the scientists that are telling you that the climate warming is actually bad, okay? Climate change is actually bad. Anthropogenic climate change is real, and it's a bad thing, and it's going to fucking ruin your life. How funny that they are also doing anti-climate change propaganda in fucking Florida, where people are literally experiencing it, okay?
And that it always takes courage.
Oh, was Jesus a socialist? God, PragerU is so good.
It's true. Here am I.
Another has a fictional Booker T. Washington telling two children, future generations are never responsible for our sins of the past. One responds that she won't feel guilty about historical
no matter
stuff.
how hard we work, sadly, there is still often mistreatment and racial discrimination towards us Black Americans.
We're really sorry that you have to deal with segregation and racism.
Your sympathy is nice, Layla, but know that you have nothing to be sorry about. You and Leo have done nothing wrong and have indeed been quite respectful. Future generations are never responsible for the sins of the past.
Okay,
I mean, okay. Yeah, like some random fucking 7-year-old white kid is not responsible for chattel slavery, okay? But like the issue is denying its consequences. That's what the issue is. This is a wild video to make. Holy fuck. They've completely made up things. Like they've just made up the idea that like teaching children accurate history is going to make them flare up their white guilt, and that's bad. They're going to feel wrong for what white people have done, and they're going to feel bad about it, and they're actually feeling really bad about it. So now we have to do a counter propaganda towards those children feeling bad, which is hilarious. It's like, no, man. It's so fucking stupid. That's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to understand, examine history, recognize the accurate telling of it, okay? And then, you know, see the impact of, see the contemporary impact of wrongs in the past.
I'll keep doing my best to treat everyone well and won't feel guilty about historical stuff.
Good. It's true.
Sorry, Mr. Columbus. I'm sorry.
The kids later travel to meet Christopher Columbus, who tells them, oh, dude, we got to watch the full one. I have to watch this full one. I have to watch this full one.
Sorry, Mr. Columbus, but I heard at school that you spoiled paradise and you brought slavery and murder to peaceful people.
Leo?
Sorry. It's what I read and heard at school.
Caramba! Those are some accusations.
He looked at he looked at them and they were like, Caramba, it's time to cut your ear off and bring it back to the queen. He's like, oh, a young boy. A young boy. I want your ears. I will cut them off. That's awesome.
The place I discovered was beautiful, but it wasn't exactly a paradise of civilization, and the native people were far from peaceful.
Oh my God, they were defending themselves, brother. What the fuck? Yo, look at this whole ass. Oh my Lord. Oh my God, we gotta go through this. I'm gonna fucking maul so hard. You'll never guess PragerU's take on the Canadian government-funded healthcare system.
This means that Canadian, like many countries, Canada has a universal government-run health.
What is that? What is happening with the ID there?
Care system.
It's Genghis Khan? Wait.
Countries.
It's Javid Genghis Khan. What?
Canada has a universal government-run healthcare system. This means that Canadians have fewer options for treatment and wait longer for medical care than people in.
Like, what the fuck is this indoctrination, dude? Oh my God, it's so bad. This is so fucking bad. It's good. It's so bad. It's good.
Other advanced countries. Instead of paying each time to see their doctor, all Canadians pay high taxes to fund the whole system. They've been convinced that it's better that way. But is that?
Yeah, the entire nation of Canada has been duped into believing silly things like socialized medicine is good, actually. Really fucked up.
Really the case? Like many countries, Canada.
I love this, dude. The overriding theme of PragerU Kids is that schools have made white children feel uncomfortable by teaching them about forms of repression, and that anxiety must be alleviated by alternatively burying and sanitizing the past. The goal is to render history and its inheritances invisible, inert, and incapable of inspiring young people to seek a more equal and more just world. There's lots more in the piece, and PragerU is trying to expand more states as we speak. Incredible. Canadian medicine is pretty bad, though, actually. They don't even cover top of the hour ad breaks when people get injured for them. Fuck you. Fuck yourself, okay? Fuck yourself. God damn it. I had a fire fucking ad break segue lined up. God damn it. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you're Canadian, then, you know, socialism or whatever. Maybe you'll get gifted a sub. If you're lucky. If you're not lucky, then make your own luck by subscribing for $5 or free with a Twitch Prime. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. 34 MKD 50 with another 50 big ones, oiling the motherfuckers in the chat. At a certain point, my entire subscription number is just going to be 34 MKD's Turkish subs. Christopher Columbus so extremely brutal that he was considered insane and a total lunatic even in his day. Like, yeah. The other people that sent them off on missions to do colonialism were like, dude, you're doing it too much. You're doing it too wrong. You're doing it in a way that we don't like even. And we want you to do it. That's the fuck are you doing? Nikki Naptime 19, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. It's actually wild to think. Okay, hold on.
As the standards. In an interview with CBS News Thursday, DeSantis responded to the VP's criticisms.
We had really serious scholars, African American, many of them, put out a huge compendium about all these things, and she tried to demagogue it, saying somehow that was like justifying slavery, which was totally the opposite.
Now, most of the Republican field, including former President Trump, is set to be here in Des Moines tonight for their largest gathering to date. Also here in Des Moines today, Vice President Harris. The White House says she is set to focus on what they call Iowa's extreme abortion ban. Dana?
All right, Ed, the talk on the campaign trail almost as hot as some of those temperatures out there. We appreciate it.
It was business as usual for Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell yesterday when he gave an 8-minute speech on the Senate floor. But no mention of the moment the 81-year-old Republican leader appeared to freeze mid-sentence during a news conference on Wednesday.
And a string of
McConnell returned minutes later to say he was fine, and aides have only said he felt lightheaded. Then another reminder of an aging Congress happening during a subcommittee hearing yesterday when 89-year-old Dianne Feinstein was called to vote, but instead began an awful.
I love this story so fucking much. Holy moly. A strong gust would knock out half of the nation's most powerful people. Absolutely. We need more currents inside of Congress.
Awkward speech.
It provides $823 billion.
An aide comes to her side, interrupting her.
Just say aye. Okay, just aye.
After a bout of shingles and a 2-month-long absence, it was revealed the California senator suffered from encephalitis. Some Democrats are pressuring her to step aside sooner than her planned date to lead the Senate in January 2025. Meanwhile, several Republican senators expressed concern for McConnell's recovery and confidence in his ability to serve Congress.
Mitch is strong. He's stubborn as a mule.
He and Feinstein aren't the only elders in the Senate. Chuck Grassley is also 89.
Chuck Grassley, who is, sharp as a tack and goes jogging and is truly incredible.
The current lineup of lawmakers is one of the oldest in history. As for McConnell, the episode comes 4 months after he fell and suffered a concussion and leading to a prolonged absence from Capitol Hill.
There are so many geriatrics. This is a gerontocracy.